and strategist, and he joins us this morning here on KTRS to talk about politics as well. I like the fact, Roger, that you're called a raconteur, pundit, prognosticator, and battle-scarred veterans of America's political wars. Welcome to KTRS.
Delighted to be here.
You were pushing for the presidency for Donald Trump as far back as 1988, as a matter of fact. Do you have any second thoughts about pushing for him to ascend to the presidency?
No, I could not be happier. Look, I saw very early on that Donald Trump had what I consider to be the size. I don't mean the physical size, but the command presence, the charisma, the media savvy, but also the independence. A person of this wealth isn't beholden to any special interest. No special interest financed Donald Trump's campaign for the presidency. And I did not view him as connected to the failed policies of the past by both the Republicans and the Democrats. We came to a point in America where the two parties working together had brought us endless foreign wars, expensive but with no inherent national interest in sight, erosion of our civil liberties, spying on Americans, collecting their metadata, a stagnant economy where jobs were hard to find, trade policies that seemed to take the jobs out of America, immigration policies that seemed to cheat those who were waiting online and reward those who refused, making some of our streets and neighborhoods unsafe. These enormous trade agreements that are multinational, one size fits all, harmful to the country. And I think the American people wanted something different, somebody who wasn't a career politician, somebody who wasn't connected to all those mistakes, and that's Donald Trump.
How would you respond to people who say that basically all that the president is trying to do is to undo anything that Barack Obama did, anything that he can undo, and that he's more or less in the pocket of big business, because that's what he is. He's a big businessman. He was cutting deals with companies all around the world.
Well, how many of those people voted for Donald Trump, and how many of them voted for his opponent? It looks to me like his deal-making skills may be quite valuable in the Koreas right about now. Maybe it's time that we regarded government and tried to run it more like a business, particularly when it comes to the bottom line.
What about the situation with Iran, where he says, the president has said, we're out of this deal. It was a bad deal to begin with, poorly executed, and so on and so forth. Yet at the same time, we've seen in recent weeks leaders from the other countries who are involved in this come to the United States and say, this is not a good idea to pull out of this thing. And the president went ahead and did it anyway. And it's going to have, if you believe some of the press reports, it's going to have a direct effect on Boeing, which, of course, here in St. Louis, we have a massive presence of that company here. There are going to be some fiscal repercussions for you Americans.
Well, I think the president was unhappy to learn, as I think most Americans were, that the entire deal was not on the table and in front of us, but there were very, very lucrative side deals, pallets of cash, as much as $400 million, a sweetener on the side that we weren't told about. That's a ripoff. Plus, you either fundamentally trust these Islamic terrorists to keep their word, and I, among many Americans, do not. So I thought this was a bad deal when we entered into it. I'm glad the president has withdrawn it. Somebody should tell John Kerry that conducting your own personal foreign policy violates the Logan Act. It's a quite serious violation. We can only have one president at a time.
How do you feel about the president still conducting business through his family, and basically his children or spouses of children are basically operating the presidency's businesses, which is a violation? Well, I don't know if it's technically a violation legally, but it's just not something that's been done. He's refused to basically separate himself from that. Does that bother you at all?
Well, first of all, I feel badly for them because, as you know, the value of their business has dropped very, very sharply because of Donald Trump's choice to go into public service. I don't believe he has any day-to-day control whatsoever of the Trump organization or his Trump real estate development properties, but overall, you would have to say that this has hurt their business rather than enhanced it.
Do you see a change coming in the civility of politics. I mean, we seem to have gone, and I blame both sides for this, even libertarians or pick your other political party. It seems to have gotten so nasty, and Americans react to that, and not in a positive fashion. I mean, we've come a long way from the days where members of the House and Senate could battle it out on the respective wells of their floors, and then that evening have dinner with one another and say, you know, you had a valid point here. Maybe we've got more common ground here than we think. Do you see any changes like that on the horizon?
Well, I agree with your analysis. I think the problem is our politics has become exceedingly polarized. Remember, there was a day in America when the Republican Party had two wings, or a liberal wing and a conservative wing. Mm-hmm. There was a day when the Democrats had a liberal wing and a conservative wing. We've now kind of realigned along the lines of a British system, the conservatives in the Republican Party, the liberals in the Democratic Party. That, I think, right there gets you a lot less pollinization of ideas. I absolutely have many, many friends who are Democrats, but our relationship has changed. This is kind of where Washington is. We're at a point of extreme polarization. Really contributing to this factor is the fact that congressional redistricting has given us so many districts that are so totally tipped to one side or the other, that the way to get reelected is to appeal to the most extreme partisan position, be you a Republican or a Democrat, at home. That leaves little room for compromise.
Traditionally, midterm elections tend to fall toward the party that's out of power. Do you foresee that happening coming up later on this year?
Well, first of all, it's too early to say. In politics, a month is a lifetime.
Touche. Very good point.
You've got 3% economic growth. The best you could get under Obama was a 1.5 average over 8 years. That's phenomenal. The president, in my opinion, probably should have done his tax cuts earlier, would have given them more time to get traction before the 2018 election. But as I said earlier, you're at the cusp of a peace deal in North Korea. There's a very active behind-the-scenes effort to try to bring peace to the Middle East. We don't know if that'll bear fruit or not. We all pray that it will. The Republicans have to run and can run on peace and prosperity. The Democrats have to run on something other than we want to remove Donald Trump. Where is their program for job creation? Where is their program to address the trade imbalance? Where is their program to deal with the immigration problem? You can't run on nothing, and I think that is their current plan, to run an entirely anti-Trump campaign, recognizing that the president he's a very polarizing figure, but when the cards come down, I think he'll have more of them than the Democrats, at least his party will.
His new book is Stone's Rules, How to Win at Politics, Business, and Style. Roger Stone, thank you very much for carving out some time in your busy day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Roger Stone, political consultant, lobbyist, and strategist, joining us here on the Big Five.